Hi everyone, Elsie Jensen here. Today we are going to be making sourdough pancakes, bacon sausage, a bacon sausage omelet, and some smoothies for kind of a brunch today. So let's start by getting our bacon in the pan and frying up. There we go. We'll do our little bit of our, what I call my crazy fry on the bacon. Pop this in the trash. And then I'm just going to break this apart and then we'll just let it fry up. We're using nice thin cut bacon. That's my favorite. I feel like thin cut crisp up the nicest. But we're going to get this going because bacon is going to be my thing that takes the longest to cook here today. And we're going to want to cook the sausage and our omelet in the bacon grease. So we want these going. Then we'll whip up our sourdough discard pancakes, which is a favorite here. And it's also a great way to use up our sourdough discard. Here we go. Almost have it all. This one has a little very thin cut today, so lots of strips. And just do what I do is I just break it apart and then we'll use tongs to stir it up as it cooks. But it will crisp up nicely. Give my hands a quick rinse. Okay. I'm going to start it on high, and then once it starts sweating out, we'll bring it down lower. Okay, let's get this right here. Let's start with our sourdough pancakes. We're going to start with our wet ingredients first. So I've got my big bowl here. We are going to add in a cup of sourdough discard. So I fed mine yesterday after we used it, and we need a whole cup because we're making a pretty big batch of pancakes today for everyone. So got my discard. I'm going to just use my little spatula here to scrape out any extra. There we go. Then we're going to add in 4 tablespoons of melted butter, also 1/4 of a cup. And I'm using salted butter because I think it just makes the end product taste a little bit better. And then we need, let me grab my milk right over here. We need 1.5 cups of milk. So here is 1. And now we need 1/2 cup. So 1.5 cups of milk. And we're going to give this a little mix to start with, and then we'll add in our eggs. So you just simply want to make sure you've got your sourdough discard kind of diluted out. There we go. And then we're going to add in 2 eggs. Just giving it a good stir. So 1, 2. And then we're going to add in some vanilla extract. We are going to add in 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. There's 1 and 2. This is going to give it a nice mild vanilla flavor, which just pairs really well with the sourdough. I'm going to poke my yolks, and we're going to mix these up. And while we have the wet ingredients, we want to do lots of mixing, but once we add our flour in, we want to minimize the amount we mix so that our pancakes stay nice and fluffy. So you want a really chunky batter when it comes to pancakes. Okay. We've got my yolks, my eggs mixed in there. I'm going to flip my bacon here, give it a little stir so that it doesn't just stick and burn on the edge of the pan. I like to move it around a bit in the beginning until it's kind of sweat out enough of its grease. That way it will crisp up nicely versus being like charred in spots. Okay. Now let's add in our salt, our baking soda, and our baking powder. I'm just going to dry off my thing from my vanilla. We're going to add in a teaspoon of salt.
You have a question? How were the fajitas?
Oh, they were excellent last night. They were delicious. The tortillas, it was a different recipe I had tried, and it was really good. They were very soft and malleable. Wonderful. Then we're going to add in 2 teaspoons of baking powder. So 1 and 2, and then a teaspoon of baking soda. We're going to give this a quick mix, and then we'll add in our sugar, and then finally our flour. But I want to make sure that baking powder and baking soda get mixed in. That's going to be what gives our pancakes a nice little fluffy texture to it. So I want to make sure I don't have any clumps of those, especially because once we go to adding in the flour, we want to minimize that mixing. So I'm just going, and if I see any clumps, I'm just going to smash them against the side of my bowl. I do like to use a spatula instead of a hand mixer on this because I think it's really easy to over mix our pancakes, and that's not going to give you as fluffy of a pancake. Okay, we are going to add in a 4th cup of sugar. It says pancakes are going to get most of their flavor from their syrup, but this just gives us a nice little mild sweetness to it, pairs well with the vanilla. So just a 4th cup of sugar. We don't need much. And then we need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. So I'm going to give this a quick stir with that sugar, and then we're going to add in our flour. Okay. So 1 and 2. Get these out of the way. And now we're going to mix this up until we have a nice kind of lumpy batter. Resist the urge to mix it in. Otherwise, you'll just get a flatter pancake, and you want a really fluffy, soft pancake. Okay. Here we go. You can see I'm just making it till it's just barely mixed in, making sure we have the bottoms all kind of thing, but you want it really chunky like this. That's going to just give you a better product. Okay, we are just about mixed with this. Just scraping the sides. There we go. Now we can kind of go over here and start warming up our skillet. This is my hex-clad griddle pan. It's great for cooking up pancakes on an electric stove. I used to have one of those long rectangular griddle pans, but on electric stoves, it doesn't work well because the way the burners are, I don't have 2 equal burners right next to each other unless I were to do it this way, which is then just strange. So this being circle is really, really nice. So we're going to let it warm up. Now let me grab my butter. I'll grab cold butter for this. So I like to put a little bit of butter in between my pancakes just because I like that little crispy butter edge on the pancake. Now there is butter in the pancakes, which will help with this, but we're just going to use this. I'm taking my cold butter here, and we're just going to kind of rub it on in between each batches, and that's just going to give you a nice kind of crispier edge to it. There we go. Keep this to the side. Let me get my bacon here a quick stir. I want my griddle pan to heat up so it's kind of consistently warm. That way we'll not be spending ages on our first pancake. There we go. Spread this out. Now I have this cooking on about a 6 or so. Let me get a small measuring cup to kind of pour these out. I find a 1/4 of a cup makes kind of the perfect size pancake. If you go any bigger, then it can get doughy in the middle. So I find doing a 1/4 a cup makes just really good, perfect size, kind of like a 4-inch pancake. Here we go. And I'm going to do 3 at a time. I try to keep them close to the center so they cook up evenly versus spreading them far out, because with an electric burner, my griddle pan is much larger than my actual burner. So my outer edges don't get quite as hot. So if I do 3 and keep them in the middle, they'll all cook through evenly, and then you won't have it where half your pancake is golden brown and half of it is kind of a pale color. So we're going to get this. The tricks for flipping your pancakes really well is make sure you have a really thin spatula. That way you can slide under it and flip. So I find like these just really thin plastic ones work so well on it. It's much easier than getting a thicker one. But just being able to slide under and flip is really where it's at. Okay, we're going to beat up our eggs for our omelet here. That way they'll be ready. I said we were running down on eggs today, and I'm like, oh, I don't have enough eggs to do everyone a scramble. But I said we can do an omelet that gives a little bit more body to it. And I got to go grocery shopping because these are my last 5 eggs. And there we go. I find that now that summer and the kids are here, I have been going through so much more groceries. I've got to get used to my summer grocery haul because, before you're feeding the kids, only like 1 to 2 meals a day here. Now I'm feeding them all the meals. Okay. Give my hands a quick rinse. Let's get a fork. For an omelet, you do want to whisk up your eggs first. I do find when I'm doing a scramble, I'll just whisk them up in the pan or scramble them up in the pan. But for an omelet, you do want a really good whip first. I'll turn down my griddle pan here to about a 4 now. I think it's hot. I don't want them to get too brown, because if they get too brown, then they'll be overcooked before you can cook through the middle. So I find with my pancakes, go low and slow until your griddle pan's just about right, because otherwise you'll end up with dark brown on the outside and gooey on the inside. There we go. Our bacon is getting. We're about halfway there to the crisping. It's just now starting to get the crunch develop on it. Turn that up to about a 6. Now, with the first sets of pancakes, they always take twice, sometimes 3 times as long, because that griddle pan isn't completely hot. And once you put your pancake on, it brings it down low. So we're going to let this sit. A good indication for when your pancakes are ready is you're going to start to see bubbles pop up. So we're going to wait a little bit longer. You'll also notice a golden edge. But I guess what we're going to whip up our first batch of smoothies for our lunch today. Let's do our tropical fruit blend in here. Let's get off the top. So my kids are like, ooh, we want some smoothies. And I was like, okay, we can definitely do that. So I'm going to fill it up about halfway. Say, you know what? There's not much in here. We'll just make a big batch of this one today. Okay, so this has pineapples, bananas, peaches, mangoes, pretty much everything tropical. I'm going to add in some vanilla syrup. This is my favorite vanilla syrup. I want about 6 pumps because we're going to make a lot. It have this in my Amazon storefront because out of all the vanilla syrups I've used, that one is my favorite because it doesn't have a strong chemical flavor to it. So if you're looking for something, I think it's better than Torani's or whatever that one I've seen a lot of. I really like this brand. Okay, we got our first one done. The other 2, I think, still need a little bit more. So we're going to let them get there. My second batches and third batches will be a bit more golden. Again, we're waiting for our skillet to get to the right temperature. Let me grab my milk. We're just doing a really simple smoothie. Vanilla syrup, milk, and then our frozen fruit. frozen fruits gives you the best texture. And I'm going to pour in, we're going to start almost up to the top of the fruit. So it's not too, if you go over the top of the fruit, it sometimes is too runny. And we're going to get my Vitamix going. I normally just use my individual ones. So we're going to get this one going and we'll see how it goes. And blend it up. Okay. I always like to let it blend a little bit so the fruit doesn't go under it. Now we're going to do a high speed. Let's add a little bit more milk if we're a bit thick. Always add more milk if you need it and versus putting in too much because you don't want a runny smoothie. And then let's check on our pancakes here. I think this one's ready. Oh, perfect. That one. There we go. Get it going. I'm going to turn it up a smidge. Let me twist my bacon here. There we go. Now we're getting this crispy edging on it. And then we're going to blend up our next smoothie. And then I'll have that ready to go into a pitcher. There we go. You can, I will say it's spinning so fast, it's moving around. Let me give a nice spoon. We'll mix this up. We should have our first batch of smoothies done. There we go. You can just see how like already smooth it is. There. And this, again, this is our tropical one.
You have a question? Do you know what you're doing for dinner yet tonight?
Yes, for dinner tonight, we're actually going to my parents' house and we're going to cook in their outdoor kitchen. So we're going to make some bougie pizzas tonight because they have a really awesome like pizza oven outside and a really cool setup. Okay. Got our first one done. Let me get a picture for this. I'm going to turn my bacon down. I can smell it starting to crisp up nicely. We're getting to the last like minute of the bacon, which is nice because that means we can start our sausage in the grease and then make our omelette. There we go. This is, I love it. Like you can, when you watch it, you can see it kind of crisping up nicely. And I just find that a pan fried bacon is so much nicer than a like oven baked. I just think it makes it crispier and not chewy. Okay. We're going to try to, I need to get a wide mouth picture here. So next one, I'm making 2 batches for my kids. So, but you can see how nice and thick. And all it is just blended fruit and milk. And it just makes the best. Okay, we've got a little bit in here, but we don't fix it. I'm making my next one strawberries. And if my oldest daughter tastes a hint of mango in it, she won't drink it. So we're going to clean it, rinse it out. And we'll get that one going.
Do you have a question? Do you prefer pork or turkey sausage?
I prefer pork sausage. I love pork sausage. Turkey sausage, if it's done right, it can be good, but so much it's dry, and a lot of times the spicing is too savory on it. I like a very mild spicing on my sausage, and I do not like the maple flavor in any of like bacon or sausage. I don't like my sweets and my savories mixed. Okay. Let's check on our pancakes here. Let me pull that right there. Oh, testing, 1, 2, 3. Hopefully I'm back. Okay. We got my butter in here. I'm going to turn it down to a 4 now that my I wonder, is that loose over there? Hopefully.
Might be low on battery.
Maybe it was. Ready? Plug it in. Okay, we'll just use it. No battery. I will talk extra loud so we're nice and clear here. We're going to use our napkin on here, our paper towels, because we're going to take our bacon off and we want it to soak up into the grease. Here we go. I'm going to turn this down nice and low, but you see we've got these nice golden crispy edges on our bacon. And I'm going to put it out. And while my thing is on really low, nice and low, you don't want to go too high, we are going to add in our sausages. Now these are already pre-cooked, but I love to cook them up in the bacon grease. I think they give them a nice crusty shell. There we go. So we've got them cooking. See how my pancakes are looking here. Ooh, this one looks like it's about ready. So we're gonna flip our first one here. Look at that nice golden edge. I told you they cook much faster the second time around, and they'll have these nice things. I'm looking for the bubbles on it. Again, I'm thinking this one side is cooking faster on my pan than my other ones. And you don't want to flip them too premature or you're gonna have a blonde pancake. There we go. And I said again, key is to making sure you have a nice thin spatula that you can slide under. Okay, we've got.
You got a comment that someone loves the skillet.
Oh yes, this is my favorite skillet for making pancakes. I got it on a whim. I bought like 2 years ago a hex clad set, and this was like, add it for $99, and I was like, will I use it? I'm like, sure. It's like half off the retail price. Got it. Use it all the time. I use it for like grilled cheeses, crepes, pancakes, tortillas, naan, everything. I've gotten so many questions about this, so I did add this to my Amazon storefront. So if you want to check it out there, there's the link on our profile page to our Amazon storefront. We do make a small commission off of it when you go there, but it's really, I just like to put there because so many people ask questions. I find it's always better to go and do your own research yourself. So if you're interested in it, you can click on it. It is amazing. It cleans up really well, and it has that same non-stick surface as the other Hexclad, which I have found as actually superior than a lot of the non-stick pans out there. They're worth the money. I was hesitant. I did a lot of research before I got mine, and I've had mine for over 2 years and haven't scratched them once. And I use my stuff a lot, as you can tell.
You have a question? Is the spatula on your Amazon storefront as well?
I believe it is. If not, I'll put it on there, but I'm pretty sure I have it on there. And yes, so my husband said it is on there because I love this one. They make it in 2 sizes. This is the really big one, and I love it because it's nice and thin and goes under. We're going to make a small batch of strawberry because, again, this is my daughter's favorite. We're going to do about 4 pumps of my vanilla syrup in here. We're going to add some milk. Really simple, creamy strawberry smoothie. But you gotta start with frozen fruit. It's so much better with frozen fruit than room temperature fruit. We'll add a little bit more milk in just a second.
You got a question? What brand is the vanilla syrup you like?
This is Jordan's Skinny Mixes. I do have this also in my Amazon storefront under bougie drinks because I made a mixture because people asked about some of the bougie drinks we drink here. Love it. It works great in hot and cold things. Sometimes you get ones that don't work well in hot drinks. This one works well in both. It is the only ones my kids like. I had used another brand before and the kids didn't like it. So, and we've been buying this for gosh, 4 or 5 years now. So it's tried and true in our household. Okay, we've got our butter on here. We're gonna put our next batch up. You see how that first set always takes so long because your skillet's not quite hot and ready yet? But now we're getting these perfect golden brown ones. And I'm only cooking them over about a 3 setting. So they're not going very hot, but they're cooking nice and fast. Let's flip our sausages here. We've got our nice kind of golden crust on it. This is what I love. When you cook them in the bacon grease, you get this nice little crunchy crust on them. And it's so good. There we go. Flip them over. We'll get that kind of crust over there. And then let's add a bit more milk to our smoothie here. And you can use any milk or using whole milk because we got littles in our house and they all drink whole milk. So this is what I have. There we go. I'm just going to blend it until it's nice and smooth. If you look in here, it blends so fast, it almost makes like a flour in the middle. It's so good, but this will be nice, smooth, and thick and delicious, which we'll have that ready for when my daughter, she loves strawberry smoothies. When we were on the cruise, we had to go and get, you know, the little like island time strawberry, like, you know, daiquiris there that she loved. It was like every time. She's like, oh, can we stop and get one? Can we stop and get one? And Evie was like, I want the pina colada. Let me add this over to my bacon area. Oh, they rolled away. Good thing I cleaned my counters really good. Okay, we're gonna get ready to make our omelet, but we don't want this much grease. And in this slightly smaller pan. But I do want the bacon grease, not all of it though. So we're gonna pour a little bit in here. Perfect. Just need enough to kind of cover the bottom of the pan. If you use too much, then your eggs just are gonna be really, really greasy and they're just not gonna turn out as well. I'm gonna warm up my pan, get it nice and warm to it. And then I also like to add just a smidge of butter in here because I think it just tastes a little bit nicer with a little bit of butter. Those milk solids get really salty in there. I think they add a great flavor. So while that's melting, let's get our pancakes flipped. There we go. Yeah. And we're back in business. Okay, so we've got them. Let them a second, then I'll move them in closer to the edge. And I'm gonna slide it around. And now we're gonna add in our eggs. And I'm gonna cook mine over about a 4 or 5-ish. This is a 5-egg omelet. And we're gonna just let it, you don't wanna cook your omelet too high or it's gonna burn quickly before you can get that. So a nice steady lower, like a medium low works. Let's grab my little bit of salt. We'll sprinkle a little bit of salt over the top. There we go. And let me grab out. See, I told you I have 2 of these. Love them. They work great for both. This is nice for bigger things and this is smaller, but this is one of my favorite spatulas that I use. And then I'm just gonna kind of wait, we'll let it do, but then we'll pick up the sides. I am not a patient omelet maker, so what I do is as it cooks and we get a base under it, then I go under with my spatula and I pick up the sides and I let it kind of go in there and slide under and make a second skin. Let's slide these over. These are still, but this guy is nice and ready, so we're gonna put him up and I'll put another one out. Now, if you wanted to add extras to your pancakes, you could put in chocolate chips right now. You could put in M&Ms, blueberries, whatnot. You don't have to do the whole batter. When I do add-ins, I typically make my plain ones first, and then I add in my mix-ins. You could even put them in right now and then flip them over. But it's a great way to give you different flavors without having to make a bunch of different batters. Okay, let's see. There we go. So I'm just gonna slide it under and kind of pick up the edges here as it goes. And that way it will cook faster because you don't want a slimy inside to your omelet. And this is just my little hack to make it go faster. You could also put a lid on it and steam it, but I kind of like the way it tastes when it actually like sautés up versus when it steam cooks. So I think it gets a nicer flavor this way. And it prevents your under one from getting too dark because you're constantly putting fresh egg underneath it. There we go. But it's also nice, like look at the hex cloud. So you see how my omelet is just like sliding around in here? That's like the beauty of the hex cloud, non-stick. It is so smooth. And things don't really stick to it all that much. My omelet's just sliding around, which makes it easier to like flip and cook with. So we're just gonna keep sliding these little egg bits around. And this, and I will say, this method, it's just the way I've always learned how to do it, but it just prevents you from getting that super dark crust on the outside of your omelet, when you just do the steam cook. Okay, now I'm gonna just kind of scrape my last little bits over here so we have a kind of a nice dry inside. And now I'm gonna turn it down low because we don't need to cook the egg that much now. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna add our cheese on just one side. We'll let that sit for a second. I have my omelet on the lowest setting right now. Here we go. We got our next batch. Get those up. Let's see how this one's cooking. And a few more. It's hard when you're cooking for a large group of people, a small army, as I feel like it is for my family. I'm always cooking for a small army. You've got a lot. You know, most people would be like, oh, that's enough pancakes for them. And I'm like, I need more. That's enough for half my family. Okay, there we go. So we've got our cheese on here, and you can see it's already starting to melt, which is great because you want gooey, gooey, cheesy. Let me grab a knife or some kitchen shears here. And then you know how we cooked up some of our sausage and we're making, I'm just gonna slice it up in here. You don't need, just use your kitchen shears and cut it up so we can have a nice sausage cheese omelet. And that way those who want sausage on the side or bacon on the side can have it. Let's grab some bacon here. You wanna cut it up, otherwise if you're trying to eat the omelet and you bite in there and you have like a full piece of bacon, that will be kind of hard to eat. There we go. Let's get these flipping. Kind of ran over that guy. Now that one is not ready. There's what I go for trying to rush something. These two are. Make them a little bit more beautiful. Okay, now we're gonna do, we've got our bacon sausage eggs. You wanna do your second little layer of cheese on it. Doesn't need to be super hot. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna just take this one and very carefully first lift under it to make sure it lifts up. And then we're gonna flip it on top. Just like that. And then you're just gonna let it sit on low heat for just a second. You don't want it to be too high, otherwise you'll end up cooking your egg even more. And see how when we put the egg underneath it, it prevents it from getting all brown. So you'll have less of the brown spots than when you do it if you were to leave it flat. Okay, let's get, I think this guy is almost done. You can always like to tell. But since our omelet is almost done here, I think we might be able to set up our first batch. So let me give my strawberry one more blend here. There we go. Okay, and we can pour out our smoothies and serve up. Let me grab some glasses right here. I've got my smoothie here, and let's see, before we flip that, and then let's grab, I've got my pancakes. I'm just gonna add them to my pile. I don't want them to burn while we plate up. Okay, we'll get 2 more on here, and then we can plate up. We're almost out anyways. Okay, turn this off. Let me grab out some plates. We have to grab into our overstock. We have several plates already. Super surprised. I always have more. I have my base plates, but then I have extras that I'm always hiding down below. Okay, let's start with our omelet. Where did I put my spatula? Here it is. Okay, I'm gonna just cut off a bit of our omelet to put on there. This is what I think is great about omelets is I don't make individual ones. I just make one big one, and then you can cut off a section. So you essentially have your own personal omelet right there. Then we'll add in some extra bacon and sausage for those who want it. And then we've got our pancakes. These are our sourdough discard pancakes made with sugar, vanilla, flour, and a cup of discard. And now we also have our strawberry smoothie. Just look how lush and thick this is, made of just strawberries, milk, and vanilla syrup. Gorgeous. My daughter's gonna be so excited. She loves this. And then this is our tropical mango smoothie. Again, nice and thick as well. Beautiful. Woo. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, show you what we're making for our family, hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page, so if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just go to the link on our profile page, click on it, search for the title of what we made, and cook along with me again. We also have the link for our Amazon storefront, so if you saw any of the gadgets that I used today and you're interested in them, you can click on that link, go check it out, our storefront. I was able to put everything that I pretty much have bought and have in there in my kitchen in there as well. And we do make a small commission. But again, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe.